Good evening, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us this evening. My short task is to tell you a little bit about the background of this program, why we do it, and what it entails. Prime Minister Holness recently challenged the nation to achieve a level of total factor productivity that exceeded the annual rate of inflation. He's absolutely correct. But I ask the question, how can you achieve increases in the merasmic 1% level of productivity that Jamaica has experienced almost since the time of our independence if you have your human resources, your labor force, which is the biggest element in total factor productivity, half of them are inadequately literate, numerate, and poorly socialized. It is that question that from a very secular and economic point of view has motivated some of us to do what we are recording here tonight. On page 63 of the Patterson report, I want you to be very clear on my quotation. Professor Patterson and his team, which included current Minister Maurice Dixon of Education, for whom I have high regard, says as follows, quote, PEP, that's the primary exit profile, indicated that most students were barely literate. That's information, data from 2020, I think it is, yes. And Professor Patterson went on with another uncomfortable truth about our education system, quoting the World Bank report, I think it was of 2019, not that long ago, which indicated that although our students, thank God, better than many other countries of the world, experienced 13 years of expensive education, 13 years. Their take-up of that education enterprise leaves a gap of 4.5 years. In other words, they spend 13 years, but they benefit to the extent of 9 years. 4.5 years is the gap for the majority of our children in Jamaica. It is this situation, which is both economic, social, and deeply spiritual, that has indicated or pointed to a direction for us to take. Half of our youths are in trouble. The majority of those who are the least developed when they leave school are boys. This has an effect, a knock-on effect, on the situation in crime. We did an anecdotal survey of 25 graduates of underperforming high schools a few months ago. 25 of them. 6 were dead. 5 were in prison. 9 were hustling. And the others had either migrated or couldn't be contacted. That's not a recipe for progress, prosperity, whatever you call it. That is a waste of the gift of our humanity, which God has given to us. This problem, which I put to you, is the most serious problem of our nation's present and future. Is a silent peril. It happens and it gets aggravated over a period of time without anybody really noticing, except you dig deep into the statistics and see the correlations. I spent nearly 25 years in active representation of politics. And one of the most frightening experiences that I had was to meet a 22-year-old grandmother. And don't think that's exceptional. I visited Mary's Child, the mustard seed of ministry at Papine today, and they are taking in girls at 11 and 12 and 13 who are pregnant. Yes? And I wonder about the young men And I wonder about that little child who I met in the arms of his 22-year-old grandmother. We have an urgent problem that we need to face. And we accord the greatest respect for those who are involved institutionally and doing the very best they can within limited resources. There's no criticism involved of them in anything that those of us engaged in the Grade 7 Academy feel. You know, a personal experience, I think that Dr. Gordon knows her, that wonderful lady, the Honorable Mavis Gilmore. She, now in her 100th year, I believe, and Dr. Franklin Johnson and myself are the 3 survivors of the 1973 National Literacy Board, which was set up to eradicate illiteracy in Jamaica and propel us into the heights of economic enablement. Well, Dr. Gilmore was a senator of a different party at the time, and we had every hope, and there was great enthusiasm. The nation was mobilized. And we worked under the premise that if we dealt with, over 4 years, adult illiteracy, that the problem would be solved, because the schools would, of course, prevent any resurgence or any accretion of illiteracy. We were wrong. We were wrong. It hasn't worked that way. It's not a statement of depression or desperation. It is simply being realistic about our situation and compelled to do something about it. We've decided that we would like to start at the root. Many of us who are engaged in the Grade 7 Academy have come from positions of the apex of the education system. Grace Baston was the principal of the Convent of Mercy at one time and Campion College, 2 schools at the height of educational achievement in Jamaica. Anton Thompson was the chair for many years of Campion College. Faith Alexander is an education consultant who could ply her trade to a greater advantage anywhere in the world. Joe Pereira is the retired vice principal of the university, the Mona campus of the University of the West Indies. Nevada Powell, an esteemed businessman straight out of Harvard. These people have determined that from the apex, if you want to make real change, you have to go to the base. And the base is where we are at the 7th Grade Academy, beginning at Holy Trinity, continuing at Newell High School, and now extending to St. Mary's College above Rocks and at the Pembroke Hall High School. We are convinced that there is a methodology, and if there is social and political will, the situation that I have begun with outlining to you can change. So this is a statement of optimism and hope. The state of Mississippi in the United States many years ago ranked almost at the bottom of the table of literacy. And the consequential poverty and crime and social dysfunction in that state were directly caused by the high levels of illiteracy and education underachievement. Mississippi found a way. They invested heavily, and they made people accountable in a responsible and just way for their participation in the education enterprise. From students have responsibilities, so do parents, so do teachers, so do administrators, so do financiers. And we have borrowed their way, their methodology, the science of learning, science of reading, and the fast-forward software. And as Dr. Alexander will tell you more, we know how to do that. And we are testing that concept now with additional cohorts. This is unfamiliar territory for St. Michael's College. St. Michael's College has been a theological college over the years of the Roman Catholic denomination. And we have been blessed by having the support of Archbishop Richards and others in our church. One of the factors of the Jamaican education system, which should be an advantage, the Roman Catholic Church owns or sponsors over 100 schools in Jamaica. If you look at the overall education panoply, nearly 48% of all schools fall under the aegis of one or another religious denomination. There is a character, there is a zeal and a verve that we should associate with religious faith that can be an advantage, not to comment adversely on anybody else, anything else, but this is an opportunity that certainly we want to engage in. In addition to being people of faith and believers that the long practice of Judeo-Christian principles are best for character formation, may I say that again? Without being denominational or criticizing anybody's religious faith, we believe that the Judeo-Christian principles are the foundation of Western civilization and are best for us as ways to help to bring, consistent with our culture, to bring about very necessary character formation among our youth. But we are nationalists as well, profoundly committed to Jamaica. And we feel that it is neither ethical nor practical for institutions of tertiary education, such as St. Michael's primarily is, to provide courses for relatively few without attending to the base of the school system, the graduates of which we hope, and every tertiary institution hopes, to matriculate. So a team gathered, as I pointed out, interestingly and wholesomely, from people at the apex of the education pyramid to craft a solution. These people are largely volunteers. A few are miserably paid to develop the Grade 7 Academy. Thank God for their spirit. Encouraged by the Archbishop, by Father Clark, and other principals, particularly of Holy Trinity and Newell, visionary teachers and donors who share the spiritual and humanistic vision and who understand that their future, the future of business in Jamaica, the future of the nation, Jamaica, land we love, face a grim time unless we solve this problem of human underachievement. So Jason Hensel, community leader in St. Elizabeth's, hearing about the idea, said, you must bring it to Newell, a school of which he chairs the board. Father Carl, Mrs. Dunn, Mr. Bennett, Miss Ellington, Reverend Ellis, Mr. Williams, Ms. Howell, and all of the others, names too many to mention, have joined in the fervor and will continue the effort. Nor could there be any Grade 7 Academy without the guidance and collaboration of the minister and the Ministry of Education. They agreed to the contraction of the curriculum, they facilitated the acquisition of tablets, and they provided food. Food is very important to the Grade 7 Academy. The fact that breakfast is now available for the students at Holy Trinity is a gift and is extremely important. Thank you, Father Clark. In addition, the ministry has monitored the effort sympathetically, and we want to give special thanks not only to Minister Morris Dixon, but to Dr. Stokes, who was here with us for a while, to Permanent Secretary Troop, to you, Mrs. Thomas Gale, to Mr. Otis Brown, the Regional Director, and to you, Mr. Lucian Reed. This recognition, that which I'm giving now, is not just being mannerly. It's going to take this level of collaboration to redress an embedded historical default. An embedded historical default? Yes. This country has been built, as Patterson again says very clearly, on presumption of inequality. For us, inequality is immoral and unsustainable, and therefore we must do everything to redress the distinctions, the differences, and the don't care that has characterized. We have normalized the underachievement of so many. We can't do that anymore if we want a peaceful and just society. Going forward, we will be pleased to be of assistance in the transformation of pre-primary and primary education, because it is at those levels the problems we see at Grade 7 where they begin. Our self-critique after a year of activity is that intense character formation has to be given much more time and attention, given the negative habits that many of our students come with. That is not an optional extra. It's not just for the guidance counselor and the parson. Yes, our children very often have been so seasoned with negative attitudes towards themselves, towards the respect for others, towards simple disciplines like punctuality, like standing in a straight line, like being silent when they're told to be so, when it is necessary, like addressing each other in proper form. These things are not optional extras. They have to be riveted in a society which has ceased to understand their value. Also, the mental health of the students is of great concern. This must be addressed. Instances of the need to diagnose and offer therapy for severe neurodivergence need much more emphasis. And we're very grateful for the interest of the British High Commission in helping us to assess more children and to prescribe some of the benefits, some of the help that they need. We have a problem though, and we may as well face it. We need the assessment, but there's a problem after the assessment, because if we can't offer the therapy, the original assessment is of limited value, isn't it? So we have a challenge there, but we're sure we can meet it. Remember, the task is to correct the loss of 4.5 years of effective education through an intensive 2-year initiative. We remain confident that this is possible and affordable when assessing the measurable and results of year 1. Bear in mind, with the support and kind services given, the unit cost per child for doing this process can be done under $100,000. Yes? That may seem a high figure, given the numbers involved. Hello. It costs over $2 million to destroy a person by sending them to prison. That's what we're doing. The cost of remediation, the cost of dealing with this grave social problem at the base is far cheaper, far more responsible. We dream of being the mustard seed of transformation in the education. We're not looking anything for ourselves other than the capacity to continue. This is what Christians and nationalists must do. While we continue to prove the concept at Holy Trinity and the other 3 schools, we point to the urgent need for a center, an institute really, to coordinate retraining of teachers, a place to develop and disseminate best practices, to do research, to rigorously evaluate the program, and help those schools who have the need to implement. Words cannot express our gratitude for the donors who have come on board and helped us during this year. This is an ideal partnership between the private and the public sector, between people who are from uptown with people who are downtown, with a common zeal to ensure that our children are not shortchanged any longer, that our children have the real opportunity to flourish in life. Tonight, we gather to tell the story of the effort, to give thanks for the kind of zeal and cooperation which is the only route to human happiness and social justice, and hopefully to strengthen our resolve to continue, correct, and expand. Thank you.